Oh, Mountain Elf. Wel- Welcome to Hold That Thoth, man. And definitely maybe should have hit record a few minutes ago, but perfect timing all the same.
Greetings, thank you. Can you hear me?
Oh, absolutely, man. Sounds mint. I don't know if you want to jump off with maybe like a little background of some of the territory that you're familiar with trotting around in.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just saw there was a spirit that rolled through as we were preparing to have that discussion, and always interesting, always poignant when you have something like that happen.
It
Um, yeah,
it's definitely interesting the cross combination of observer effect where you picked it up with your biofield, and then out of the corner of my eye I saw the white flash across the screen. I, I,
yeah,
I
it's too bad you didn't catch it on camera because it was pretty loud, and I'm still pretty buzzy from it. So, well, I'll just clear the space. Yeah, I am. The Mountain Elf. People call me the Mountain Elf, and I am an energy worker. Maybe more importantly, oftentimes an adversarial energy worker, which is sort of what we ended up leaning into the discussion about what just happened there. And um, I do. I primarily use tuning forks to work with people's energy fields and deal with all kinds of energetic blockages in the chakra body and the aura, and sometimes when it comes to other things like we just saw, energetic attachment, anything from just plain clearing of attachment, all the way up to I've dealt with possession work and maybe non-denominational exorcism, people would call it. Um, yeah, that's what we're doing over here when we're doing it.
Now, is there a way that you prefer to delineate between which energies are being worked with, or it's just kind of irrelevant? Like, would you say, just for an example, whatever passed by the camera a few minutes ago, like you could get a read on like which flavor it was, or it doesn't matter?
Yeah, that one didn't feel positive at all. And what I've come to learn, you know, clairkinesis is an interesting clair, and I guess depending on like when I was just getting my head around it, it was harder to delineate. And nowadays it's a lot clearer as you can tell what's positive and negative, and both will activate the energy body, of course, but the flavor says a lot. The nature of there's a visual component to clairkinesis as well, and that can tell you a lot. That one it was too close, so we just saw there was something there, and there it went, and okay. Um, but oftentimes, if I'm working with something, the stuff that will release from the body, it says a lot. Like it'll speak to what it is and stuff. And it's never one thing explicitly. It's usually both an awareness in my body and then a visual component.
And the clairkinesis part is that, do you feel like there's something like a movement outside of space time that you're picking up on,
Yep.
that it's like the whole energy foot thumbprint, or?
Yeah, that's specifically, I think, how it works. I mean, when you're dealing with something that functions outside of the material realm, I like to look at the material realm as kind of like being a videotape, and we're stuck on it. And when you're outside of the material realm, you have a little bit of luxury. There's a little bit of an advantage there. So when I'm picking up something that's happening, it's really that movement in and out of 3D, I think would be the best way to put it. That's the way that I've sort of come to see it, because it's certain to me that things persist at different times and things persist in different locations at the same time. But as I deal with it, I'm dealing with it now, in that moment, I'm, and it expresses then and there, and that movement is kind of like the movement in and out of the realm itself, if that's the best way to put it.
Oh no, I track it. Well, and to me, it makes me think of time crystals, like they're in two positions at the same time, where one of them maybe is a color that you don't like, so you got to straighten them both out at the same time, but you're at neither one of them. But if that makes sense, like,
Yep. That's a great way to put it, and I think sometimes I deal with the energy body like that. I've had issues with things that live in multiple locations that I have to engage with over time, because I only do so much work. There's only so much work I can do at a time. So I've had things express like that over different parts of the work that I'm working with someone.
Now, does that, as you clear it out and or like the different individuals, does that have to do with like how it expresses itself? Like sometimes maybe the fridges keep opening, or another one like you always spill your water, or is it like really more specific than that?
I mean, I think when I deal with it, I deal with different aspects of the chakra body. So something that has parked itself well into someone's energy body will live somewhere maybe in one chunk in the root, and then one chunk in the heart, and then one chunk in the throat. Like, you know what I mean? And so I will do the work to clear something out, and sometimes the adversarial part kind of runs its course. But then there's some, like I have to come back 4 weeks later and then tidy it. I'm like, oh, I know what that is. It's like almost, it's just like it's almost like a husk, or like just a lesser version of what that thing is. Um, yeah, it's like little hooks that live in different places.
Well, it
But
kind of speaks to this as like musician level too. Like the if you have an echo and you have it echoing, it you can still hear it, but it's softer and softer, and like you don't where the main rhythm perhaps or whatever the main vocal instrument is, but then you have like whatever a crash cymbal that you hit that slowly fades out. Like that's what I'm relating it to as a.
and maybe depending on which track you are in, it could be relevant or not, or to a lesser degree. Again, if we're talking about tidiness, to a lesser degree, problematic. But nonetheless, we pull it all out. Like this is what we want to do. We want to get rid of what's not supposed to be there.
Well, that was one of the things I definitely wanted to hit you up on too was the signal differentiation on versus like the incoming. Like if you have, we'll just use old school like dial up internet. If you have somebody uh hacking your signal versus somebody like an operator trying to provide the cleanest possible connections. Like if there's, I've heard a few different ways of how you would parse that exactly, and all of them pretty much can boil down to intuition. But like, is there general energetic feel to that you could put specifically for the ones that are trying to hack the signal?
Yeah, like those are pretty intentional, and like you can see that that has a completely different quality to it. Like there's general discord, right? And I think that's kind of like I almost like look at it almost like defrag. You know what I mean? Something like an old Windows computer would do. Like that's just like there's just trash that ends up along the way. But there's a big difference between tidying the corners on someone's field and then something actually intention, like conscious of what it's doing, and how that's working there. It really does have a very different quality, and I think what's probably more relevant to me, it's less about the specifics on that frequency. It's the specifics of what the resonant frequency does in the presence of that frequency. So anything outside of resonance, is just not what you want. But once you start to apply that, either the less conscious discord will smooth out, and that can be the grounding, like things are just going to ground. But then when there's something conscious along the way, and then it meets up with that versus my chi, you have a little bit of a pop, or like a little bit of a release that obviously has a much different reaction than sort of like the unconscious gunk in the field.
Well, have you found any cases where like I appreciate you clarifying that but made me think, if have you found any cases in the field, or do you know of anything where, I don't know what the right term, like it makes me think of like a geode where like there's a bunch of funk or whatever, but and that you blast off it, and then it's the husk part is discarded, and there's actively like something not harmful left over of the energy, or is it always usually like trash? Like if you found something and then it identified as a whatever, a Sasquatch, and then you blasted all the Sasquatch off of it and it was, we'll just say mantis, like, but it was a decent mantis, like, would it be still like the bad connection, or would it, is it all need to go? That's, I guess, kind of the question.
I think, I mean, in the way that like we're speaking very loosely, right? So I think, like there's in the unseen, I think the left hand path and the right hand path both they're both relevant in that regard as well. And functionally, maybe we could use something like a guide or a guardian angel as an example of something that's still with the field of an individual. But that's not invasive. It's not parasitic. So it's not actually like in, it's not adding to the discord of an individual's field. It can be a great source of resonance, I would say, maybe. But that resonance is something that sort of reflects externally, whereas something that's negative is going to be something that's attached inside. Again, parasitic. Um, if we're considering the Sasquatch as being like something that's positive, or maybe even the mantis, depending on how you're looking at it, it'll likely be something that's, and I guess maybe like this is where we can have the conversation go into that. It gets really dangerous if you make a conscious connection with something that you're not sure about, because that's where stuff, like the input really starts to integrate. But if it is positive, it's not going to have a jarring effect for that thing because the nature of the relationship is something that's sound, so to speak. If it's anything parasitic, that's anything that's not supposed to be there, resonance will make it quite uncomfortable.
That that's helpful. So it would, I mean, that you would know pretty much ahead of time if the geode was worth hanging on to, and or if the Sasquatch or mantis was going to be your buddy after, but it would, you, it would still need to, the parasitic aspect of it would need to be dealt with either way.
Yeah, and I mean, like to be honest, I get surprised a lot of the time along the way because for as much as I try to be conscious of everything that's going on, I mean, like I can't know anything until I get to it. Um, so sometimes I have been, quite surprised. If things are intelligent or strong, they can shield themselves, or it could be confusing enough that I can't tell left, right, what's going on there. But yeah, ideally, I can tell if something's rotten in the field beforehand. Like some of the basic stuff you can tell. You can tell the beginning of a session. You can tell the day of, and sometimes before, but not in the case of absolutely everything. So it all
Does that,
depends.
does that affect like how your which methods you're throwing at it, or like just the, it's
No.
the sledge?
Well, I mean, to be fair, when we talk about, and I think we talked about this a little bit before, there's like natural and unnatural attachments, and if we're talking about unnatural attachments, that does come into alien, and I absolutely have a different approach to that. But and I think that's because I'm not actually built to deal with that, and I don't think this is maybe a big topic, but like when it comes to from my understanding, from everything that I've learned from what I'm doing, there is natural attachments which we could loosely batch together as being demonic. Um, they are serving the lesson. Like you live a certain way, you live in a certain type of vulnerability, you're going to have these attachments that, although can be absolutely uh, hideous to deal with, there's something natural about them. And, you know, it's kind of the name of the game. But along the way, and I think part of the big, esoteric strangeness and challenge of what has become our collective living experience is that something is hacked in. Multiple things have hacked in to this little sandbox experience of teaching us how to live again, and made it incredibly difficult and complicated. So that they deal with the same systems, and that I'm built to deal with the demonic. My like the way that I've come together to be the energy work that I do, uh, my natural body and like the natural flow of things, I do the work and it is uncomfortable for the demonic, and then just by default through the process, it goes, right? Um, when I started to encounter the unnatural, which I like to call it unnatural because I think it's just a little bit better than alien, because I don't know if it's just simply, I don't think if it's reasonable to even just call it just alien, but there is the, because I do think there's like things like black magic, and there's things like, you know, intentional, there's all these types of things that we can engage with that aren't necessarily straight demonic. Um, when it comes to dealing with things like that, that process is a hack of its own on my behalf. Like I had to learn to hack what I do, and it actually makes it a little bit more of a pain in the ass to do. It's my least favorite work to have to do. Um, but if that's maybe a good answer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The different the different alien types too. I'm personally on the feeling there that there's like ones that exist outside of time, uh, which maybe angels and demons, like both technically. Ones from not on this physical place that we're at, and then maybe ones that under the ocean or in the crust or whatever that have been here a while. But I totally concur. Oh, you were about to say something. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no, not at all. I'm more prone to think anything of value does live outside of that same 3D time loop that we're on. And it's just like they're higher dimensional. I think that whole, like the Alex Jones take on how the aliens function has been my personal experience, as opposed to like me seeing ships come to the window. It's just usually a very unusual and unnatural attachment in the human body.
I ships in the window and lights and street light phenomena, a full variety of strangeness on my end too. But it's I would say perceptually, the Alex Jones had pretty much has the best handle on it actually, and he's been
When I heard
steady.
it, I couldn't argue with it. Um, yeah, I mean, I can't speak to that stuff, to this stuff in the physical realm, and of course, like I've seen even like demonic presence or demonic influence, and again, like it's not even just negative influence. Like if said being has the chi, it can engage with the material realm, and oftentimes the electrical field is the best way to do it. So it flows a little bit more freer than the you know, so it's more appropriate. And yeah, I don't know. Again, like it's just like it's not something that I've like really seen. Like I haven't had Greys come into the house yet, and I hope they never do.
Yep, me
So,
neither. Here.
um, but it's all sort of been in the field. And again, they don't deal with me in the same way that the demonic can. Like nothing in that realm has tried to fuck me off before. It's more like it's just like it's like dang, and I pull it out and it's like fuck, and that's it.
Well, kind of to that point, like, did have you ever experienced like any like booby traps? Like the example I'll use is, and I don't know, I don't do astral viewing with groups or whatever, but there was something under the Sphinx. I was looking at something under the Sphinx, and it was like kind of like coding, like rain down. Like I don't know what your view is on the Akashic record or anything like that, but it looked like a I don't know, like a booby trap. I zoomed out third person, and it was like code, like a fall going this way, but then something going this way with the tunnel. And you when you walked under it, it triggered it, and I I got past it somehow, but I the Akashic realm in general. I was just gonna ask your opinions on if you've encountered any like time traps, or I don't know the right word, if there is a right word.
I mean, I definitely have had more experience in the meditative state or in shamanic journey, but not in the body so much. Nothing that's really impeded my work. Um, I've been very fortunate like that, and I've come across some pretty difficult attachments. So if they are set up like that, I haven't seen one that screwed me up yet. Um, I definitely see what you're saying, and again, like this is maybe when we talk a little bit more about the nature of um, unnatural expressions in the energy field. That would be something that's constructed, and it can do all kinds of whack stuff because it's again hacking things. I would say is the good way to look at it. Um, but thankfully not in an individual, and I just don't know what the absolute limitation of that is. Like like who knows, the that person that could correct me could end up on my table this week. I have no idea. But until then, so far, it's all been fairly straightforward. Um, yeah, I've definitely had challenges in journey. Sometimes you find yourself in circumstances that can be overwhelming in the journey realm. Of course, in meditation and dreams and whatnot, there's all kinds of wacky shit that can happen as well. I think even if we talk about something like the nature of you know um, sleep paralysis, it even kind of functions like that a little bit. So um, definitely possible.
Do you think that's like where there's like a energetic, I don't know, phase lock on where your body is still in sleep, but your like awareness comes back to 3D land, and then it's doing stuff with your astral, or because I've never experienced that one, but
Sleep paralysis, you mean,
yeah,
or?
yeah,
Well, I mean, I think it definitely is like a hijacking of your physical body in that in that vulnerable state that sleep is, right? And obviously, like it really is a vulnerable state in so many different capacities. Like like you're sleeping and someone could break into your house, or you're sleeping and some spirit could creep into your experience. This is like what that's all about. So there's definitely a hijacking that happens there, and that hijacking is definitely something that most people's body become aware of at some point, and then that's the journey back. It's never a good sign. I think like the people that come to me that have sleep paralysis, they generally have one type of problem or another. Like I think I usually attribute the incubus succubus to that type of thing, usually because it's sacral. It usually has something to do with oftentimes it can be sexual or like the creative aspect and all these types of things. So in that capacity, yeah.
that's interesting that they tied to different energy work type. Like they have like their special flavor of ice cream that they like or whatever, and it made me think while you were explaining that, like I wonder if the forks, like they're just the tone of it is set like a magnet, is it lasts forever, a permanent magnet. Like I wonder if the tone of the forks is like exists outside of space time, and when you intentionally put that like correction or alignment into now, like for both parties, and then bounce it to the signal of eternal healing tone outside there, and then get it back, if that whatever that's not in alignment with that triangle signal, it just gets shook free, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, like I consider it in resonance, and I think resonance is a natural state, and so I mostly rely on solfeggio, and obviously you can see in nature there's so many ways that those expressions map out. The same with Fibonacci. I think both of them there's something special about them. So yeah, like to what end? Like, are these the tones of God's resonance, or are these just the tones of optimal nature? Like, however we want to explain that. I think it's just sort of like it's a signal. It's a signal relay, like you're saying. And so, between whatever can occur for us energetically, in the time and space that we're in, we run the fork through that, and that fork sings that specific tone. And again, I'm running it through an individual's aura and into their chakra system and back. So I like the way that you're putting it. My experience is a little bit more meat and potatoes. I'm just like, It's just like tuning an engine, like back they used to do it back in the day, right?
Well, it made me think of that specifically. Like one of the things I was trying way back was I had a mirror on it on a fork, and I'd have the lasers bouncing off it, and I could get it so it would stop. Like I'd put a fork, it was bouncing around, and I could put a fork in the beam, and it would vibrate, and then I could pull it out, it would go soft, like quiet, and then I could put it back in the beam, and for whatever reason, like it would pick back up the,
Sure. Yeah.
which to me is means that the laser is holding on to that frequency somehow.
Well,
And
light and sound are just different, different ways that the vibration's going to express, right? So, like even colors, I think you'd probably. This is not my expertise. This would be a lot more yours, but obviously, like the different colors are going to have different frequencies, and there's probably going to be a purest expression of what those frequencies are in that spectrum, right? So, I would imagine that you put a delicate instrument like a fork into something like a laser's path. Again, not a scientific experiment I've done myself, but of course it would make good sense that it would, if it was resonant, then it would pick it up, right? If they were aligned tones.
it would, I mean, and there was something I just saw very recently about they just discovered sound can blast cancer. So or light can blast cancer, and I think it's the combo of light at the right sound tone, which is maybe or maybe not Fibonacci based. I would wager probably it is, but the the color force of the, like each color has a force, kind of goes back to your work too, with each chakra having a different functionality. I believe
Yep. Yep.
also.
Yeah, red light, blue light, it expresses in so many ways that like hippie science and hippie health are starting to come together. And let's talk about Wi-Fi and 5G. Like there's all these different ways that you can see that red light is having a scientifically positive effect, and of course light can do all kinds of things to kill infection. It does it, just the sun itself does that to fungus and all kinds of things in the natural realm. And again, like there's so many different ways that it works, right? So yes, of course, like these individualized tones have positive function on so many different levels. There's something that I don't really engage with so much, as much as I'm sort of like semi-conscious of. Is there's like the Rife tones? I'm not too sure if you've heard of the Rife therapy tones.
Yeah, the Rife and Therify are the ones that I kind of came across when I first came into this, and uh shout to Damon from episode one. He's rocks one of those, but the Rife is, and I'm not talking smack against anybody, but the Rife seems to be a little less dialed in as opposed to the
Yeah, I don't mess with it, so yeah. But there's that concept of the potential, and I think the way that the Rife works is it's both electromagnetic and the tones at the same time. I don't know.
I think so.
Because
Just
I
a straight beam also, and not like versus the Therify, I believe, is two cones that you're inside the middle of it, which I think is what makes it butter zone versus,
potential, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's definitely all there, and it's the nature of the work that I deal with. It's just for me, it's my specialty isn't physical as much as it is the spiritual.
No, I'm wondering if you made like two big round, and I'm not telling you how to do anything, but I'm just wondering out of curiosity if you made two big round wheels that you sat in between of all the same tone, like so that you would be in the middle of the things, and then you could somehow strike them so they all hit, if you would get like the ultra, like, lift off your seat boost.
Yeah, you ever seen those massive sound bowls you can stand in?
Oh no, I know, I haven't seen this, the one you can stand in. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Like there's like the big like Tibetan bowls. You can get them that are copper, so they're not gonna get buggered up if you were step. But you can get huge bowls, and they have feet prints in the middle, and you stand in them, and they bang that shit. And again, this goes for all kinds of gongs. If you've ever been in a gong bath, it's quite powerful. And when I really got excited about the potential for sound therapy, I obviously thought about a few different ways. It'd be neat if you set up a bed to like a sealed speaker box and then blasted enough of a tone through it. Nowadays, I'm a little bit more excited about organic tones, so I wouldn't be as pumped as to run a sine through something like that. But I don't think it would necessarily be the absolute worst. Lots of potential and lots of different ways to do it for sure. I think, for me, it's just like the way that I use the tool is a little bit surgical, and I think when you get into these types of large, like big tools, giant bowls, giant fields of resonance. I just don't know how the specifics of it would work or what it would do, but um, all positive. I just think maybe to a specific purpose or end that I can't tell you exactly. Like my wife does sound baths, and we know a lot of people who work with that kind of stuff. Like, we're kind of in that community, the people that use the crystal bowls and whatnot. And you definitely hear the stories from time to time of people having those similar effects that maybe aren't quite as uh, surgically repeatable, but when it hits in the right space under the right circumstances, that'll exactly will happen. Like an individual will have an energetic shift, and either something will jump out of them, or something will shake off, or energy will start flowing through, and it's all very possible.
Like it's more of a blanket field versus
Yeah.
like just warm sock field.
Yeah, it's like an area of an effect, you know what I mean? It's just like radiating over the entire space, and then if it catches the individual at the right time and space, it'll hit. Whereas for me, I'm like focusing directly in a line in a space, right?
It makes me think of the cozy red mirror. Like I don't know if you're familiar with that. That's kind of like you have to put it on like pretty much the exact node or whatever, but it's just a Fibonacci swirl of aluminum. Allegedly, you go into it, and I haven't tried it, and I thought about trying it for a little bit, but I'm kind of
I'm not
second
familiar.
guess. It's just like a big mirror. It's at the Fibonacci swirl, and then you sit, and there's a chair in the middle of it, and you sit in it, and allegedly it like after an hour of power sickness, you get like visions, or you lock with some version of yourself at some point in time, like in either in the past or the future. And I guess people, lots of people have tried it or whatever, but it reminds me of like the blanket field thing of like you're not. That's there's probably more precise ways to achieve that, but that seems like a not good one first to me. But second, like the versus the maybe if you put tuning forks in there too, you might be like you're a bowl, you might be able to withstand the sickness, but the just the general idea of it, I guess, is you just latent any old Joe Schmo could go in there and allegedly experience some time temporal shift. Is
Mm.
but it's fairly simple, but it does 100% matter where you put it is the thing. Like the magnetic node for the Earth is key.
Yeah, and that's, again, if you put resonance in the right spot under the right circumstances, many interesting things can occur. So I'd have to look into it further, but it sounds about right. And again, like, there's that sort of binaural factor to what you're saying. If you run that frequency set and then support it with another, one, you could definitely, probably dial in a little bit more effectively or get different effects along the way.
That's that's interesting. That well, up to that kind of that point, that was another one I wanted to run by you was uh the different disciplines and or the bubble methods. Like uh somebody's somebody's practice, and I'm not going to name names, and I'm totally not meaning to judge anybody, but somebody's practice involved you needed to have a rotating circle around you, and then around you inside that is like a dodecahedron, and then inside that is a square with pyramids. Like I was like, golly, that's very complicated. How do you track all that and like just relax at the same
Is
time?
that like astrally? This is
Yeah,
what the
yeah,
individual is doing? Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that's a little bit more advanced than I usually put myself into. That's a lot. That's a lot to concentrate on. But I suppose, again, like, angles themselves are based in resonance. So if you could be confident in what those angles were being representative of, um, Obviously there's all kinds of potential. There's certainly not my expertise in that regard. Our mentors, they're great nerds of, spiritual tools, and they had this large copper. Um, it was like what's it's like the 3D of a pentagram. What was it, like a 12-sided die? I don't know how many sided dice it would be, but it's like the five-pointed thing, and it was a large shape that it was powered. You would plug it into the wall, and you would sit in it, and the all the electricity would run through it, and you would meditate in the middle of it. And we used to go to like cacao ceremonies at their house, and I think like one of the ways that they work with the tools that they have is they'll use them on people while they're doing their events, so people get excited, and like they have the PEMF and they do all these things. So they'd plug it in before the ceremonies, and it'd just be sitting in the room. They got this big room that they do it in, and you couldn't deny that it was definitely doing something. Like my biofuel would kind of pick it up and be like, "Well, is that thing plugged in? Like, what's going on?" And people would sit in it one by one. So yes, I think definitely like there's aspects to the figures in the platonic solids or whatever you want to call them, that obviously hold some strength. And I think goes to be said about construction. Like anything that you construct, the pyramids, all these types of things, they have value in the physical realm because of the angles that they hold. And there's the concept of like modern houses being built with sharp 90-degree angles because it sucks. So it definitely has its value. And when we clear houses, because we clear spaces as well. Um, the nastiest of stuff that will sit in a space is usually in a horribly designed square within a square within a square. So I more deal with it in the physical realm and places that are awkward or poorly put together. But yeah, in the astral as well as in the physical, design is everything.
Have you come across anything in that aspect where like you've picked it up in the astral and then been like, oh, you're over in this corner here, like to clear a house, like, man, there's something wonky in here, and then like you
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah. And even worse is it'll move around. It'll bounce through depending on the design of the house. And my wife and I do it, and sometimes my mentor and I do it. And you know, uh, it's usually good to have more than one person, because sometimes it will bounce between. If you have I've been in situations where there's two bedrooms next to each other, and then there's a closet and a closet that sort of face each other, and we've had to swing around both ways before we could get it and corner it. Um, that's the kind of shit that can go down if you have enough, and then if you have a power box in between them, like they can get pretty pesky.
well, I imagine the only one kind of like that I've come across myself, and I don't clear them. I was just living there. Was it moved from the attic in the middle of the daytime from the attic through the main hallway by the bathroom, by me in the living room, and then like out the kitchen down the stairs, like kicked all the doors open, like we had blankets, like it was that was the only one where I was like, oh, there's definitely some like for sure movement, like doesn't give a crap who's around at all, like the
Yeah, and when that's happening, it's trying to generate a certain type of energy that it feeds off of, which is fear, right? And they're quite strong. If something can screw with the shit in your house, if it can turn off the lights or if it can close the door or whatever, like, yeah, that's nothing to fart at, right? So yeah, they'll move. They will certainly move, and when they're really tough, they'll move shit with it. So it'll happen.
I wonder if there's any examples ever in history where like somebody would go in and be like, hey, you're not welcome here, like just turn into something good or get out, and then they like change into a dove and they have a problem, never don't ever have a problem again, or
Yeah, I mean, if you have a strong enough force behind you, I suppose it could be that easy. Um, uh, I hope so. You know, I've seen some crazy stuff and I've heard some crazy stories from people, and I think it takes a lot to be in the face of something like that and have that pure, have that pure confidence and that faith of vision and that faith of vibration that you can go there and clarify it without any serious work. And that's what I've found has been like so handy about where I've come to with the work is that the resonant tones are just, they are like kryptonite for dark forces in these environments.
That's do you think that they would work on for if you had like a craft hanging around your house too? Like, is there like a you think there's a locality bubble to it, or
I mean, again, if that craft was hanging around, that craft in my mind would have to be one that was sitting outside of the 3D. Um, and I would be prone. It's fine. I really do think that there's, pardon me, there was that sort of karmic telltale thing. And I think, if you ever seen Mars Attacks, I think there's a really good karmic explanation there. And I do think that frequency is the thing that is in effect in that regard just the same. So yes, I do functionally think that. I think if you play a resonant enough tone, anything that's not supposed to be in the environment will have to bugger off, so to speak, one way or another.
so would you would you say that the Akashic exists both outside of linear time and in linear time, or it's just whatever one we're observing,
If I was going to look at it like that, I would say that,
or both maybe?
yeah, like, again, we're running on a videotape. That's the way that I like to see time, is we're running on a videotape, and this, we're recording the tape right now, but the tape is ahead of us, and whether or not it's already printed, I don't know, but that tape's running, and then it's, we're creating it in this moment, ever forward, eternally we're doing it, da na 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 na, it's ongoing and ongoing, but somewhere that tape is on a reel, in a very metaphorical sense, and when you're outside of time, or if you are in a position of strength that you can go above into these zones, through meditation or through connection or through guidance otherwise, you can see the whole darn reel if you need to, and I think you know that's where a lot of these esoteric gifts kind of function with this type of stuff. If you can know things about the impossible to know, it's because it's written. And even with my work, like, if I dig through someone's past, it's just there. It's just recorded.
Do you get the cheat sheet of it? Like, oh, like I'll just throw myself as an example. Like, all right, working with Evan. Like, now I know all the stuff about lasers or all the highlights for lasers in there.
No,
Oh,
no, no,
that'd be
no.
cool. Damn it.
Yeah. I have had, depending on the individual, I've had very interesting shifts of consciousness. But I don't, like, I'm just a fella, so like, it's for the best that I probably don't. But when you're in someone's field, you know, uh, even at a distance, you and I are in each other's field, right? Like, our we've got a crossover. So,
Absolutely.
so some data is ultimately being exchanged, and at that, like, there is that hundredth monkey passing of information that's going through all of us. I think whoever has that full command of that is a very powerful wizard, and you should either be very excited about or very worried about. Um, I think it's really difficult whenever we get into these things up here that are much higher than human consciousness, to really master. In my experience, it's just like, I'm not in charge, and it wouldn't be wise for me to have expectations about it. It's just either it's there or it's not. I can't mine for it, so to speak.
I'd say that I agree with you there, and I would say also that kind of speaks to the maybe we've been nerfed for telepathic ability just as a species, but then like hey, um, you and I are both cool to share whatever information we up to whatever certain level we want, like to this threshold, like oh maybe this part up here is like we just aren't acknowledging it yet. Like we are exchanging it, and or there's a database there that we're building together, but like we're maybe not consciously adding to the list. Maybe it's all just the astral crossover Vesca Pisces style.
Yeah, I mean, if not exclusively nerfed, I mean, like I've definitely, I can't remember which tribe it was, but I heard on a podcast, a Mysterious Universe podcast, one of the very first episodes I really got excited about was there was a tribe, I can't remember if it's in the South Pacific, but there's a tribe that don't speak. They only relay to each other in telepathic form, and like they accurately do it. And the guy who went to go hang out with them, and he spent a bunch of time with the tribe, and like took one of the tribe's people out into the modern world and whatever. But they were just laughing at him because they were like, "What are you using this for? This is stupid." Um,
That's
and
awesome.
and they would all relay their dreams to each other every morning telepathically. So yes, like there are, if you live a certain way, if you live in a certain vibrational state, if you have a certain type of clarity to your, to everything that you're doing, there's lots that's accessible. But yeah, however we're living, the normal, modern, secular, Wi-Fi laden television dinner, all of these things are doing their best to keep us in our normal state.
Well, shit, we can get into that if you want, man. I definitely am curious to see. Like, I'll go into just for a rough outline. Like, I it more from 4G to 5G to uh well, we might be able to like pick up what you're thinking or for an ad to the latest one that I've heard that's the edge lord on this is that they don't even need to the way that they can track you is like if we're out in the woods, if we walk by a cell tower, they can be like, all right, the Wi-Fi signal bouncing off individual A is Mountain Elf and individual B is Evan, like that, which would also to the nerf factor speak to me that they, and I hope not, but would have a way to maybe nerf people from being able to receive more natural signals that like that too.
Yeah, have you ever heard of Sabrina Wallace?
Yeah, the name's familiar, but so many people. Sorry, man, if I can't put the work to it.
She's phenomenally paranoid, and like her story is that she ended up she had a government contract, setting up Wi-Fi in the rural areas in the like northeast of the states, and she came across all these terrible things that they're doing. And then there's this concept of like the Internet of Self, and the fact that we all have a MAC address, and that we're implanted with all these things. And it's a horror story, like everything that she gets into. Uh, doesn't look too good. And obviously it's intentional, international government, modern dystopian hell stuff. But um, yeah, as frequency functions to create harmony, it certainly functions to discord. And these industrial commercial operations have a lot more money and intent and shit going into it. And like I was sort of like noting on before, it'd be spectacular if Wi-Fi or 5G all expressed on resonant factors of the code. You know what I mean? Like if you could find there's resonant frequency through solfeggio and Fibonacci, that if the frequencies of things like Wi-Fi and 5G and whatnot were sitting on them, they would functionally potentially be quite healing. And I think that's sort of like an Atlantean kind of concept, like one of these things of like how frequency can roll through to give everything from free energy to to wellness to communication. So
Even the electric grid, or it's whatever 50 hertz is, like if you dropped it 6 or 4, it would be better for you, I think too. But
all of these things, right? And the question is like, are they designed consciously to be shitty, or are they just designed unconsciously to be shitty? I don't know. And again, people like Sabrina Wallace would tell you the former. But yeah, I mean, obviously, it's not something that I try to worry too much about, but like I have to be conscious of that in the nature of the work that I do, and understanding that all these frequencies are running through everything, top to bottom anyway. It has to be.
Well, from a, I guess, survival or evolutionary standpoint, there would have to be a defense mechanism, I would say. Like, so if humanity is like to go two moves ahead of implanted and or trying to Borg people out, if the humanity had a natural ability to subvert the Borg chips, then like it would be behooving to make it like the craziest idea that, oh, like you can like telepathy or anything human capacity is like, oh, that's super woo, like don't even try it, don't even think about trying it, like it
Oh
kind of.
no, of course, it's through those types of methods, and through that awareness that that's how you're going to get out of Plato's cave in that regard. Like that's probably the only way out. I don't think that the material realm offers any. You probably don't want to take a pill that they offer in order, you know what I mean? Like, it has to be through conscious awareness and through frequency and all these types of things, I think. So call me a, call me a new ager. But that's the kind of stuff I think, when you look at it, when you see it, it's obviously through these types of things.
No, I'd buy. Well, shit, if I'm a new ager too, then somebody, it was 2 years ago, yeah, probably a couple years ago, somebody was like, oh, they're developing whatever pill that you can take where you'll be able to live forever. And then that was choice A. And then choice B was, meanwhile, there's a hollow bed that you can refresh your DNA status to 40 years, and you can just keep doing that for however many times. Like why would you go nanotech, like where you're gonna have an ad versus like whatever nature brings to you? But I could see the appeal for the ease if it was like cost, or if you were you did the hollow bed and you were sick for a week, like versus the pill and you're not sick at all, but you're dependent on the company. Like we would probably both go the natural way, like
Yeah.
a thousand, even if like, but there's people that would automatically be like, oh, pill me out. Like, but
Yeah. The devil's in the details for sure. And, um, yeah, how you go about that is going to say everything. And yeah, like there's, maybe it's obvious that there's a lot of bullshit I wouldn't put in my body on behalf of whatever corporate sale is trying to ensure a subscription to my well-being. So, but and again, like that there's something natural about this problem, and there's something to be said about all of modern living is undoing some form of unconscious, you know, um, discord. I was raised on Rice Krispies, and you couldn't force them on me nowadays, right? It's one of those types of situations. So we're all kind of figuring it out and learning along the way, and it's touch and go.
I think there was a spot a couple years ago that maybe made that point for a lot of people where that like,
Made it
hey,
easy to
yeah,
those who could see.
there's a decisions that I should be making for myself, and
That's
that's
right.
all I.
Yeah, and a very beautiful one for those who can see. And obviously, yeah, that's a whole other conversation. Probably we don't need to have here.
Absolutely. Well, we can save that for a different
Yeah,
podcast. That'll probably be a long one in itself. And I definitely agree. I don't try to judge anybody or press political buttons, but it for
yeah.
sure seems like a divide and conquer move for
Very,
sure.
very interesting test. Yes.
Well, to kind of that point, to the full humanity activation, where do you stand on the 12/24 strand DNA?
Well, I mean, particularly, probably not in a more as very much intelligent location than you would have. You probably have a much better view on that. But I think, in a general sense, I'm conscious of the fact that this modern iteration of the human existence is definitely one that we would call nerfed. And I think there's a point to it. I don't think it's completely, I don't think it's all slavery. I think it's a little bit more like elementary school. And I think that when we look at things, big things in history like the flood, they tell a tale of something beforehand that was extremely problematic. And we have an era now where we are very much again nerfed, or very much learning to be, get on our feet and walk again. And we would probably all screw it up really bad if we had full access to ourselves. And you could see that with just sort of I try not to be too much of a cynic, but I think most of us really wouldn't understand what our duty would be if we had that much access to our living experience. We have a long way to go collectively, and if reincarnation is a thing, which I think that it is, when it plays out and we have earned this as a collective, then it will make sense that we've been in the sandbox for right now. Um, but I think obviously there has been a change, and I think we have been reduced to something, and I think that the even the chakral body is an example of that. I think there are these mm, little threshold guardians that you have to be able to function past in order to be able to flow and live a certain way. And yeah, for now we're on easy mode.
Well, that I'd say we're up to easy mode. Like the maybe before we didn't even like completely being unaware that there was a mode selection. Like
Sure. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Well said.
yeah, no, I didn't mean it as like a terrible. Like the like all right, like we're aiming for extra hard super pro mode, but like we have it set on easy now. Like wait, we can change it. Like all right, let's
Yeah.
work as a society to maybe let everybody know that there's a selection available.
But you can see that obviously it's an incredibly complicated and difficult thing, and like, I don't want to think that I even am nailing it. Like I like to think that um,
Me
living in
too.
this body is like juggling seven balls while lizards bite at your ankles, and it's incredibly difficult to do cleanly. And once all of humanity is doing that wonderfully, and we can all do it together like some kind of North Korean parade, then we can start talking about the potential for adding more balls.
That was well said.
This is yeah,
I can juggle, or I used to be able to juggle, and three is friggin'
yeah.
hard.
I can do three.
Yeah.
That's yeah,
Yeah. So we're on the same page there. Like that's a lot of concentration.
part of the curriculum when I was growing up. Yeah.
And I didn't have lizards biting my ankles gratefully, but
Well, we all do, I think. I mean,
oh
that's
well, that's true.
different realms, but yeah, and I think that's where it really comes down to. And obviously, like, yeah, no, we certainly don't want to be like shitting on our brethren for the fact that this is the place where we're all at. But I really, as time has gone on, and I've been blessed to see individuals and seen the challenges and seen where the rub is for a number of them. I guess I get it. For me, I get it a little bit. There's a little bit of sense to be made in it.
Yeah, you see a little bit of even the worst case. You see a little bit of something good left still. Like I track there for sure.
Yeah, I think I've learned to see it more that there's a template, and that template is very uh, consistent. Like our um, usually we're all that same sort of format of marionette, and there's all these different flavors of challenge that create where these problems are, and some of them are greater than we would parse as being decent or reasonable. But in most cases, people are like coming from a place of defending an old wound, or um, dealing with the imprint of their birth, these types of things.
Does it have you kind of, to throw it back to one of the questions from earlier, have you found like if uh somebody was more apt to be well, I'll just go ultra polar, like if somebody was like super goth, lean into angry sad time all the time, versus like if somebody's more inclined to hang out with nature and be try to sing with birds. Is there an ease there or
Yeah,
of
there's a certain reflection of balance or imbalance in both of those types of individuals, and most people who come to see me are people that have problems. So it's the nature of those imbalances that will make things like anger or sadness prone, and that kind of runs on its own autopilot. So you have the individual that has that problem, and you can create the shift for the environment. But there's that challenge of if something wants to vibrate a certain way, it'll go back to vibrating that way. So it really takes some effort, even if you shift the vibration on something, to get it to stick that other way. That's its own challenge. But functionally, an individual that is grounding more, that is spending more time in nature, they're gonna have those built-in those built-in aspects that will help that flow run a lot easier. That will pull out all that kind of stuff. For me, even myself, before I got into everything that led me to be what I am, was at a crisis. Like I got super sick when I was in my early 30s, and Western medicine couldn't help me, and I had to find all these alternative ways. But somehow I ended up here on the mountain. I called Mountain Elf because I live on the side of a mountain, and the time that I spent on it and the time that I spent in the woods taught me so much, and it is the medicine in a lot of ways. So it does offer, not it, it's not the panacea, but it offers that ability for connection and grounding and all the natural things that we really benefit from.
now
Whether
do
or
you
not that's,
oh
sorry, go
go
ahead.
ahead. Oh no, I was gonna say, do you have you built up the energy around like your pad up there? Like you feel like there's more natural flow, I guess, drawn to your spot?
Yeah, it's people, we lovingly refer to our home as the sanctuary, and it wasn't always one. But we've spaces are alive, like in the animist approach of things, spaces are alive and locations are alive, just like anything. And we've drawn a lot of love not only into our home, but the the natural environment around it. And it has made a huge difference. And now when people come over to the house, they come for work, they come, our friends come over, just anyone comes over, we get comments on it. It definitely matters. We've done work to remediate the forest around us, because we have bramble, and in some cases there's knotweed and stuff like that. You do a little work to remediate the forest, and the forest really does thank you for it. And we've done a lot of work in becoming conscious, both in the shamanic realm and in the physical realm, to be conscious of what's around and what spirits are prominent around, and it all makes a huge difference.
Now, would you do something like a clearing of, and it's kind of a bad example and generic, but like a Skinwalker Ranch grade like area, or like something that's like traditionally known to be not an awesome spot, like try to clear it out, or just steer clear of like super heavy hitter ones like that?
I mean, I've definitely come across environments like that before, and thankfully they haven't been my responsibility, but I think that's the point, right? There's a really interesting story about this mountain traditionally, with the indigenous folks up here, that the mountain used to house very evil spirit, a feminine spirit, that would torture everyone. And this mountain had very bad mojo, but now it has very good mojo. and it's because of the absence of that spirit, which is something that's like in the ancient stories of the indigenous tribes up here. And it always bugged me. I mean, like it weirded me out because I'd heard the story. I'd done a bunch of research about um, the environment. You know, it took me a long time to understand what was happening with me, and I thought I was having an indigenous experience, but I was actually having a Celtic experience in an indigenous environment. Um, but along the way, it got me inspired to look into a number of different things, and came to legend and whatnot. And over time, when I made sense of the fact that that there has been a real change on this mountain that I'm energetically conscious of, and that expresses in so many different ways up here. Yeah, it brought a lot of context to how space management works, and how both really positive and really negative things can happen in environments that can really make an effect.
Did does that do you have a sense of where stuff gets cleared out too? Like is it like the I don't know, like if you've seen Rick and Morty, like they have like the dimension of all trash, like you're putting it like into the hole and then it just sucks it out. Or do you know if it compresses back into like source energy? I don't know the right term.
Yeah, I don't look at it necessarily exclusively that way. I think certain things that are conscious must be processed or must go elsewhere, and sometimes they simply just wander elsewhere. And again, like to what we saw before we started recording, like something negative flowed through, and they're just literally wandering through. And I am a bright light in in the environment, so we attract these things here. This is the nature of the work. When it comes to something that's stuck somewhere, if it's conscious, it certainly can be destroyed, so to speak. And most times, as opposed to being destroyed, things are shoved off to, again, wander the wastes. Otherwise, it's really a matter of discord or harmony. And that's just, again, like it's frequency garbage. And like that garbage isn't necessarily something that goes away. It just sort of goes into its right place. And then you have right? But with intention, you can do both, and like, uh, being in a whack environment, you can feel it. And being in a beautiful environment, you can feel it.
I wonder, yeah, that the both part would be to some maybe like to use the lady on the mountain that you're on, like maybe before you're like, hey, you realize like whatever energy you pop so you could speak with her, like, hey, you realize whatever energy like you had, like you took possession of you and you hurt people, like that's not cool. And like, oh shit, my bad, like suck down to like back the original like lady, and then like so you can beat it now because you're not welcome anymore here. This is my spot. And like, oh, all right, like, or you're gonna get destroyed. Like, oh, all right, whoop, like,
The legend is that she's stuck in a stone. Um, and like, I think she was powerful enough that that was like uh, the most appropriate thing that they could do with her. And by they, I mean very powerful forces that um, you could consider as being the indigenous versions of the archangels. So, um, yeah, obviously a huge enough problem that they had to trap her in a stone.
I totally believe those stories are more than metaphor. Personally, like,
100%. It's chilling for me, and for my wife, and when we, because we are quite involved with a lot of this stuff around here. And when we really got the story and we really saw, we are like, "Fuck, man!" Like, in the legend, there's the possibility for that stone ever cracking open, and that would be a very unfortunate day.
oh golly, yeah, no, nobody wants that. Nobody wants that.
It's an interesting thing, and interesting to consider that these stories are 100 years old, and the legends are thousands of years old, and not a lot of people think about them.
Well, it speaks to the digitization of everything. Like there's no way they could hide history from us. Like if if barely we can go back for on Google or whatever and get 50 years worth of history, then like the oral tradition, it's kind of the only trustworthy one, really. And that's like kind of a long game of telephone, but which you got to take into account. But it's stories like, oh, that there's a rock up. Like if I go out there and I feel a bad rock, you know what? I'm gonna put chains around it. Like I don't want it to fall apart. Like go
Yeah,
extra good or bury it or something.
I know where the stone is. I don't know exactly which one it is, and I just these are things that are out of our control. And again, like when you have, you know, industry and all kinds of factors at play, things I try not to think about too hard. But I'm sure if that were to ever happen, we would be well conscious of it.
Hopefully not. I hope not.
Not in this lifetime. I'd be happy just to deal with the problems that we have now. But at the rate it's going, one never knows.
But there does seem to be a little bit of timeline crossover. So, but hopefully there's the ability to shuffle that one or that the rock cracking open into a different timeline. I,
Yeah, it's a strange thing to think about, but it's on the other side of the mountain, thankfully. And you know, this I don't know. We'll have to see. We'd have to see what would ever happen if it ever came to that. But again, not putting too much thought into it. Just everything's fine. We have enough
absolutely,
problems.
absolutely. Well, no, the only I had one other question here. I was gonna ask you about the moon. If you noticed the phase of moon to the energy strength correlation.
No, certainly. You know, we entertain astrology around here, and we entertain you know, the strength of the full and the new moon, and we use them accordingly. And of course, there's something to it. I'm a big Saturn moon matrix guy. I think the moon's a problematic thing that's maybe necessary, but it certainly has a profound effect on us water-based creatures here, and yeah, 100%, 100%.
Do you think how long do you think that there was without the moon?
You know, Zulu legend talks about the time before the moon. I think it would probably be, I don't know exactly, but shortly after the problems of Atlantis, I think is when the necessity of the moon came into play. Um, you know, the way that I look at it is there's the golden age of Saturn, right? And when there was the golden age of Saturn, which is, you know, many, many, many thousands of years ago, the Earth was in a completely different place, doing a completely different thing. The reason that that was the case is because Saturn was the sun. If you look at it, it has the exact same chemical makeup as the sun it is as it is now. Same with Jupiter. These three planets are strangely similar. And the sun not being a planet, but like, you know, like the chemical makeup between the three of them are uh, curiously close. Um, then for whichever purpose and to whatever end, I don't know, like, you know, like this is where I think you can choose your own adventure. I really think that the sun as it is now is the God that we refer to casually now. And through that, Saturn became imprisoned both in the rings and with the hexagram. And that was the arrival of the moon. And with the arrival of the moon came the flood. And since then, the moon has functionally um, redirected the energy that usually goes directly to Venus. And we are in the wheel that we are in now. And I think that this cycle is the one that is the reincarnation wheel. And I think that's actually a good thing for us in our early stages of reestablishment of our full capabilities, because without it back in the day, you know, there's that whole concept in the painting of Saturn eating his children. And that's what happens if you shit the bed when you have a god that has no time for bullshit. But thankfully now we're in this cycle that does this and requires this, and you know, that's the nature of all things. And I think it comes with a lot of strange things about anything from menstruation to our emotional states to there's like so many factors that come into play with it. I don't think it's natural at all. I think it's a completely constructed thing. It may be constructed of natural material, but I don't think it just happened. I think it's there to do something.
Well, to that point, does it uh facilitate or impede like the fork work? Like I would say like just from
Mm.
from the description that it not nothing really.
If it does, it's subtler than I would notice. I think if anything, Let me get back to you on that. Like if so, it would be subtle enough that I don't notice it. Like I don't like my body hasn't come to fear sessions during the full moon or look forward to them or otherwise. Um, I think they're softer forces. I think they're manifestational forces. Of course, when we talk about eclipses and, even this month has been exciting, with everything that's gone on. And, there's the whole double new moon and both in Virgo and and like, again, like we could really geek out on a lot of the pesky details of depending on your astrological systems. Um, I think it does have a very subtle effect. I don't think that those effects are all encompassing. I think they're influences, and I think, we have that free will and that potential for strength to overcome it. And I think resonance to what you're asking lives outside of that, but definitely has a certain amount of effect.
I've noticed for my lasers, definitely it does too. But I was wondering if it probably maybe all the planets do. I would say to a degree, but if I was gonna guess if it was artificial in nature, but it would have sort of a boost effect to maybe the parasitic side, but at the same time, we've evolved for so long now around it that maybe there's a natural immune system kind of to it.
I think naturally I would argue that if anything, it's probably worse for the parasitic, because honest from everything that I understand about a full moon, that's really where the healing occurs, where the opportunity for healing occurs. That's where the pull is the strongest, and that's why you see people freak out. Like there's the whole concept of like, all the tropes that go along with the full moon. They're really expressions of people's pain, right? So if anything, it's a potential for the possibility of freedom in that regard. Um, Yeah, maybe something I'll look at a little bit closely depending on what sessions fall where, but there's too many variables, and honestly, over time, maybe I've mentioned it to a client or two. Oh, look at we're doing it on the full moon or whatever the hell, but um, not so much that again, it's like been a hinge.
If it was the energy going straight to Venus, you think it would be bad news?
I think it just has a different um, it has a different onus, and I think what it is that the expectations of living with that ancient freedom um, don't have as much room for fuckery. If you really screw it up, you really screw it up. Whereas in this environment, I think you have room. Again, it's a cycle, and I think that's what it's about. So I'm more prone to look at it like that. That's what I've sort of come to. When I first started looking into the theory, and then I saw how it resonated for me, and I was like, we got to get rid of that moon. We got to nuke that thing. But like over time, I've like actually sat with that crazy and again, like this is a fucking bananas concept, but um, I'm like, okay, I think I get it. Like I think I get what it's doing, right? It's not while we probably in the big picture don't want it, for now it's probably exactly what we need.
And I think they have tried to nuke it. Actually, I don't know if they hit it with the kinetic rod, right? The tungsten rod, and
Yeah, I mean, I think that and Mars and all these things are scarred to shit with something that's indicative of something that happened well before we understood things. Everything that's been wiped again, the flood, all these types of things. So I don't, like that whole narrative that like these intense scars on all these planets are just a meteor. You know, doesn't really sit with me very well.
I kind of jive with the plasma electric burn. That looks like the Mars and the Grand Canyon even definitely looks like one of those things where you take the electric and just burn wood. After I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, darn it. But
Yeah, there's a lot of weird tinfoil shit that I think I would entertain about the like the prehistoric history of a very capable global culture and maybe intergalactic culture that we just we don't have again right now.
Or if yeah, I would agree it. Or if we have it, they're not willing to tell you and I about it.
It's
Darn it.
not for us. Yeah, no.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Not
that's what
yet,
I
anyway.
mean.
I
Like,
hope.
we're going to keep getting our energy siphoned from the moon until we figure that out. And, again, maybe that's for the best. I don't know.
I don't know either. I'm down to keep learning and trying though. Darn it.
Thankfully, I'm at the state in my life where it's like if the full moon comes around, I'm not like, it's not having a negative effect on me, to so to speak. And I think that's a good sign. I think if someone's like regulated enough, it's probably a good indication that they're not food, like Gurdjieff would say, food for the moon. Not like I'm a Gurdjieff fan, so to speak, but like it's, a good example of how that can be, if you're so dysregulated that these shifts are really buggering with you, it's probably saying something about how stable you are.
Or the only even really kind of defenses and I would be like if you have to deal with all the people that come out every single moon like oh golly oh like let's get the rubber gloves out. It's almost
Yeah, I mean, stay unbothered, as much as you can,
yeah,
right?
yeah, oh, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. But that's super weird, and yeah, I really love that stuff. But how much it applies to my day-to-day life, or even the session work itself, very minimal. We have done, we've done manifestational new moon. Like again, like my wife has put on sound baths, and sometimes we do, little manifestational things under the new moon, and when we do, they work a whole lot better. That much I could say. So there's something to be said about it.
It definitely seems from my end too that whatever is going on kicks up for sure as well. Like the subtle, but yeah, there's added added gravity, I guess, or reduced, I guess.
Yeah, depending, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like most witches and whatnot know when it's appropriate and know what not to, and things not to do during the eclipse season, as we're entertaining right now. So
Oh yeah, I think there's one tomorrow. I'm pretty
yeah,
sure.
that's the end of the cycle, and obviously this one's been an intensely spicy one. So not very many people can deny this one, at the very least.
Well, I have that, and I'd say there's more people even just kind of aware to the spiciness of it too. Like the bigger point of moving the Overton window for folks.
Yeah, yeah. Whether they want to connect it to eclipse season or not, undoubtedly, from the beginning of the that season to now has been wild.
Oh, dude. Well, I don't know what else if you wanted to cover anything else, man, or mention anything.
I think we did pretty good. I mean, we've covered most of the unseen world, haven't we? No, I think if you're satisfied, we can call it a day.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm satisfied and grateful as heck for your time, man, and insights.
Likewise, I appreciate you.
Uh,
Um,
Appreciate
maybe
you
I'll
going once.
maybe I'll do that thing where I plug myself. Is that appropriate?
Oh, absolutely, of course.
Most people find me on my Instagram at Mountain Elf Energy. We also have a general website called mountainsanctuary.ca. So if you're interested in, if you need energetic assistance, or if you just want to talk about the strangeness, you can always reach me on either one of those.
Sweet. I'm gonna link those for sure.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely, fellow frequency theorists too. Were a few of those ripped up together.
It's been a little while, but yes, those were good times. We were banging forks together that first time. That was great.
Oh, absolutely. Darn
Yeah.
straight. That was the first 528 bust out for
Yeah,
sure.
and I think that was the beginning of these conversations. So
Beyond grateful for all of it, man.
me as well. Hopefully we can do it again. I'm sure between now and then, many interesting things will occur, and we'll have many new things to discuss.
I'm looking forward to all of it. So I'm gonna just go ahead and stop the recording here and thank you again for your time, man.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you again for your time, man.
Thank you, sir.